Hi, welcome to Finding the Word. I am Melanie Brown, and the word is actually a two-word phrase today. It's He is. It's been a very long day. I do get up around 4, and normally on the weekend I don't have to, but we have a benefits fair every year as a part of the insurance program with the case that I'm on. And so it's Saturday. Got to be there early, so I have to rise up early to get everything done. So it just makes for a very long day. Now, there is something that occurred today that was very special to me. Just a very special moment that I was thankful to be a part of, thankful to be able to witness and to feel the blessing of it. And so I wanted to share it with you because it's just touching. But it also connects with a throwback for me that occurred many years ago too. So it's got like a double blessing. So I sat with a couple that were sharing that the spouse had had a stroke. This had happened around February, so we were talking about how to help in regards to should they switch plans and maybe what things could be done medically because there's a lot of bills. And I definitely could relate to what they were dealing with, of course, because we also had walked through the stroke with our son. And so when Marlon went through this 10, 15 years ago, the hospital bills and things had gotten high. We had to make decisions at that time between, do you take off work again? And, we have things we have to pay, and you got to face the financial burdens, having your household things that have to be taken care of, but wanting to be there for important things and spend the time with him and things and negotiate and, navigate that part too. So when she was discussing all of the things, the brain swelling that takes place with strokes, that they call angry brain and things like that, I was completely understanding all. Only this is the husband. This is the man of the house. This is who is the band for your home, and who you look to often as the man of the house. You're the strength, you're strong, you're the protector and all of this. To go through this stroke with him where he is left struggling, learning how to walk and talk and things that come with that, as well as the financial burdens. Now, there are plans for them to be assisted. And so naturally, I'm navigating through to see, well, what do you have? Do you have a critical illness plan? And critical illness is something that covers heart attacks, strokes, cancer, kidney failure, and things like that. I explain this to people all day, and I try to tell them the importance of having this. You have an opportunity to choose 10, 15, 20, 25, or $30,000. If you have this diagnosis, this is the payment that you receive, okay? So that's huge. If you're walking through something like that and you're trying to negotiate bills, you're trying to drop down your medicals, see which plan should I be on to help. We're going to have a lot going on next year, they're explaining. We don't know what we should do. Should we go up? Should we go down in our plans? So, but when you have something where you're handed 20 or 25,000 or 30, it shifts everything. It changes everything. It's helpful. That is the reason I actually got into insurance. It was a plan that covered these types of things. And we looked at each other, and O and I was like, where was this at when we were going through it? We didn't know anything about this. And the person who had came by the house that day was sharing, how you get into it. So I said to her, well, how do you tell people about these cancer plans and illness plans? And she said, well, you have to have an insurance license. That was the beginning in 2013 of my journey with insurance. So this was really a full circle moment, you know what I mean, about what they were walking through. So I said, well, do you have the critical illness plan? So she's like, well, how would that help? Like, what is that? Now, this is another point I have to say. A lot of times, people don't know what they have. We sit with them and we explain and we talk about it, and it makes sense to them in the moment, but because it's not something that's a part of their life all the time, they forget about it, and they don't even remember the names of it, which company it is, stuff just coming out of their paycheck. So when you stop in during the benefits times and you have your appointment during open enrollment, it gives you an opportunity to see what you've got, to review it, to go over things, and it's helpful. So She said, well, what is this? I know we have an accident, and I called them, but they said that doesn't cover. Well, that's another company. But I said, well, critical illness does cover this critical illness, and that is the purpose. You have 25,000, but does your spouse have any? It's not on here with you. Well, we hadn't gotten him yet. So when we did, and she was just, you could tell it was like they both were going, oh my God, could you have this? Is this what it was we needed? Is it there? And I'm thinking with them, oh boy, do I hope it is. Because you know how many times people go, especially the husbands and stuff, they'll be like, it's fine, we don't need that, we don't need to spend that, you know. And the wives might get it, sometimes get it for their husbands, but other times they don't. So when we went into his account, there it was. He had this stroke in February, and they have been struggling ever since with their family. So I said, you have critical illness, sir, and it is 25,000. And she said, what? I said, yes. And my heart was full in that moment. So just then, one of our leaders that is in charge of all the benefits that they turn to for answers, for questions, and that negotiates and manages the account was coming by. So I said, hey, would you let them know, because this was in February. I mean, is there something going on with the dates? I wasn't sure time frame wise when you need to report these things. But she said, absolutely not. File your claims. You will receive your money. And if you have any trouble, take my information and contact me so I can make sure that everything is taken care of. They just heard the words that they were receiving 25,000. And in that moment, she dropped her hands to her face and she just began crying at the table. Well, you can't cry around me, and I don't have tears too, because I feel for people, everything they're dealing with, like it's me. And I had walked this. And if someone had came and said, you know, you have 25,000, it would have also been life-changing. So she said, this is going to change our lives right now. And she just couldn't help but cry. I just felt like I was thankful to be a part of this special moment for them. And she wanted to give me a hug, her husband, when they were all done. And she's like, am I allowed to give you a hug? I'm like, of course. It was just really, really nice. And I was so happy about that. And so during the conversation, she was talking about, you know, the struggles and just, you know, not wanting to complain. I said, you know, it's funny because I remember a particular situation when we all wanted to go to a homeschooling event. And Marlon was moving from intensive care, though, to a regular room. He went to the step down. He was going to a regular room. And we were excited about that. I had not been to any homeschooling events or anything with the children for weeks because I was just in the hospital. He was doing a lot better, and my mother was going to stay there with him, and there was an event coming, and we were going to be, for the very first time, doing something as a family. And I felt sad, and I was sitting in the parking lot, and even though I was excited about doing something and being able to be together as a family, the sadness was coming from Marlon not being a part of it, for it being the very first time that we would be separated as a family with one child not a part of what was happening. And maybe it was a little guilt to it, I don't know, but just sadness mostly. So I sat there and I looked up at the window in the parking lot where I knew he was going to be on that floor. And I just kept saying, you know, he's left out, and I mean, he's moving today, and I guess I just feel like maybe I should have been there. And I don't know if he's going to feel like we did this without him and he's sad about it too. And is he going to think it? So I'm going through all this. And he's just, you know, he's just barely able to, can't even walk. He's not even able to. Well, in that moment, the Spirit really made it loud that I kept saying, he is. And then it's like I heard it whispering, but I heard it getting louder. He is. You're saying he is in front of everything. You realize that's the contraction for that. And I was like, he is. And he shared with me, you could be saying he was, in other words. He's here. He is. It's present tense. You have to rejoice in that. He is. which means he will join you again. He will. Because he is, he will. Not he was, so he can't. He is, and he will. So, I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm good. I'm going on. So I was sharing that with him, and she was saying that the Spirit had told her something that very morning in the same way. And she had just shared with her husband the same message. And it was such a confirmation because it was, we have to be thankful. We have to be happy. We have to be glad for this because I still have you. You're still here. You're still alive. And she laid over on his shoulder and he put his arm around her. And she was just like, I'm just glad we're still together and we can be here. And so I said, yes, because he is. And we just really were able to share that moment. So that was the special moment. I couldn't wait to come on and share with you all because I know that you will feel the blessing of that and the understanding of that. And so he is just ringing true for my experience prior and then for their experience now, and just how good God is and what he provided them with in the time that they were needing it. And so he is took me to Genesis 37:27, and it is talking about Joseph, which is really one of everyone's, I'm sure, favorite stories. And I wanted to read just this part though, because he is in here in the phrasing with it. So it's really cool that it came up. A lot of his came up, but this one really rang out. And this is the part where he was coming to see his brothers. They saw him coming. And they said to one another, look, this dreamer's coming. Come therefore, let us now kill him. And this is, let me back up. This is Genesis 37. I'm reading from 19 and I'm reading through 27. Okay. So then they said to one another, look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit. And we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams. But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands. And he said, let's not kill him. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There wasn't any water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal. When they lifted their eyes and looked, there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels. They were bearing spices and balm and myrrh on their way to carry them to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened. So he is our brother. You see how they said that? He is our flesh. Let's not just kill him. And so there's another part too, where later on, I thought it was so exciting to really see. I'm going to go over to 45, and this is where later on down the road, when he became governor, I thought it was just neat to see that he is also turned to something different. This is Genesis 45:26, and it reads, well, first I'll go back to a little bit. Genesis 45:25. Then they went up out of Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to Jacob, their father. This is after his brothers had come and then went back to their father. And they told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart stood still because he did not believe him. But when they told him all the words which Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the carts which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. Then Israel said, it is enough. Joseph my son is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. So that was the end, part of the ending. That was the happy ending there for that story for them. So he is our brother and he is the governor, were those two scriptures that we have for he is. So a few things that the Spirit was sharing with me about this is that it was premeditated. They planned this. They saw him coming from afar and they discussed how they could kill him. They were literally devising how they were going to take his coat, put blood on it and carry on his stuff and kill him, put him. I mean, they planned it. They were thinking this through. And I thought about that and realized that this kind of a hatred, this type of bitterness is not overnight. This had to be a jealousy and things that really grew, that would grow into the fact that you would get to this point. Yes, his dreams too, and all of it combined. And what it was saying, in my spirit, is we have to really watch any types of feelings of bitterness and jealousy and things that you may have, even slight, because it gives an opportunity for them to grow. We have to make sure that we're looking at situations not in that type of negative way, through that viewpoint of pride and offense, but just through love, which would have eliminated this type of thinking. And obviously we know this story had to go down because it had to be the way it was, but there's lessons to really see and learn about the way that they were relating to their brother and how they were treating him. So also something that I was seeing where is that when you start off with one wrong, it tends to grow and follow another. The fact that they were planning this crime, that they were going to be committing this one offense and sin, it was leading them to then have to go into another sin of lying about it. So then because they were going to harm him and because they harmed him, now they got to tell the father something that isn't even true about him. And a lot of times when we are involved with things that we should not be, it grows, turns into something else. Now you got to go from like the older people used to say, if you're cheating, if you lie, you cheat, and if you cheat, you steal, and stealing can lead to killing. So it's a progression, is what they were trying to say, that it will keep going and lead to worse and worse things. And so we really don't need to start it in the first place. We need to nip it in the bud. And then also, last but not least, the one thing that was, I felt the Spirit pointing out was, the brothers stood up and said no. There was one that said, let's not do that. Y'all are doing too much. He was willing to say it. Why don't we just put him over here? And he had his own little plan where he was going to come back and get his brother and let him go back to your dad. Go back to daddy. Daddy's going to be upset. Our father's going to just be through if something happens to you. I cannot even allow this. And I felt like, hey, be the one. Make sure you're at least the one. If something's going on that should not, if it's in your workplace or amongst friends or just whatever it is, be the one that will say, I'm not going to let this happen. I may be not able to stand up alone or whatever, but I'm going to make sure in whatever way I can that this does not go down like this. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate Reuben, can appreciate Judah as well, where it was like, let's not kill him. Let's do something else. This is just too drastic. And so that was appreciated as well. So, something that was just really, I wanted to almost have two words here, but I just couldn't really tell. It felt like it just stuck with he is. I stayed with he is. But something else that I really want to just point out too, that really was special to me about the situation, is that sometimes you're in the middle of something and it looks like it's a certain way, but it really never is and never was. It never was that way. And in this, I love the fact that it looked to them that they were in a struggle and their needs weren't met. It looked like they were needing to negotiate how to work through next year, that they needed to make changes and shift things. It looked as though it was going to be difficult, that it was going to be struggling. It never was true. And I love that because it was like the prayers were really answered in a plan that they were prompted to get, that he was prompted to get within his spirit. People say no to that illness plan consistently. No real reasons. Just don't think it'll happen to them. Don't want to spend the $8 or $9 or whatever it takes. Think they have enough coming out of their check in the first place, and whatever other reasons that lead them to believe it's no big deal. He could have been one of them. But what I see is that he was given the clarity and the decisiveness about it to say, no, I want this. And to go ahead and say, you know what, why not? He listened to the Spirit within him that said, yes, this is something you can need or use. And he got it. But to me, that is provision being made ahead of time for you. Because the fact is, he didn't remember he had it. Neither him or his wife knew or understood fully what they even were getting, it appeared to be. And so I just felt very thankful that sometimes, really always, in the middle of our situations, there's different ways that God will make sure that he provides for us and that we are taken care of. And this case, it was basically before even asking, it was there. And then to even come to the fair to discuss it, to not just say, well, we're just going to let things stay the same and go on, because they don't have to come for the appointments, but to come and decide, let me seek help. Let me share what we're going through. And in that sharing, the answers were there. The provision was already there. They actually had no need to even be discussing the struggle. It was all done. And so I really hope that this really blessed your soul and your heart the way it did mine, and that you can rejoice with me for this couple, and also just pray for them. You don't even need to know their name, of course, to just say a prayer for couples. I have actually talked to and dealt with several couples who are walking through an illness with their spouse, whether it's been a massive heart attack or a stroke or even cancer. It's a consistency of this that I'm seeing. And we really want to lift these people up in prayer, all of them, for the strength they need, for the ability to still praise the Lord, to be thankful, to feel the blessing of the Lord and the covering, to have a calm and a peace that passes understanding, and to be comforted through their struggle and situation, knowing that he has everything under control for them and that he is going to take care of their needs. So he is, and you can fill in so many things there with that when we're referring to the Lord. And when we say he is, we know that we are dealing with the present tense. We're dealing with a God that is dwelling with us in present tense. Not he was, but he is. Don't forget to find the word, and I will see you tomorrow.